tend to release their Marvel Legends line in waves that are usually themed around a character, a storyline, or perhaps a film. But more recently, they seem to have broken from tradition and seem to be increasingly releasing single-carded figures that aren't really connected with a particular wave, or if they are, it's a post-release or a pre-release for a wave that has been or is on its way. As such, these figures can often carry the moniker of the theme of the wave and the colouring in the packaging, but they don't carry a Build-A-Figure piece. And that is the case with Jigsaw. As we can see from the packaging here, this is part of the Super Villains line, which we actually got last year in 2021. In that sense, Jigsaw is a little late to the party, but he is most welcome. And whilst he doesn't have a Build-A-Figure piece, he does make up for it with a lot of extras. So in terms of the packaging, we know what to expect because we had that Super Villains wave last year. It does have the green on purple font. It has the Super Villains banner at the bottom there. We have the green carded inlay at the back, and of course it is mostly window display in the front where we can see the figure and all his various accessories on full display. As usual, we have some artwork of the character on the side panel. I don't know if this is newly commissioned artwork or if this has been pulled directly from the comic books, but I really like this image. It looks really, really good. And we have a slightly larger version of that same image on the back of the box here, and this looks absolutely fantastic, very displayable. This looks really, really good, however you want to put it on display. So really like this. There's also a little bit of bio at the top there about the character, and I think they've done a pretty good job. When this figure was announced, I was personally very excited because we haven't really had much in the way of Punisher characters in the Marvel Legends line before, so really brilliant to have one of his arch nemesis here. And to date, we've only ever had one other Jigsaw figure in the Marvel Legends line. This was under the Toy Biz year, so a long time ago now, and it was released as part of this face-off pack. Again, very similar costume to what they've opted for this time around, and they did also do a variant of him in a Punisher outfit. First impressions upon opening a box is that, well, we've seen a number of these parts before. There's no real surprises here, but he does look really good, very effective. This is clearly recognisably Jigsaw. And the standout element of this figure is the head sculpt, and I think they have knocked it out of the park. This is an absolutely wonderful sculpt. There's so much detail in here. We see so many cuts, scars, stitches, and blood. Like, this looks horrific. They've done such an amazing job of just A, sculpting it, but then B, the paint apps are meticulous. They've done an amazing job here. We can see the really, really fine detail. We can see the individual bloodshot veins in the eyes, which are bulging and popping there. We see all the individual bits of white and silver on the stitching and the face, and it just looks really, really good. They've also given him a collar as well. This is a separate plastic piece. It looks pretty good, works quite nicely with the head sculpt, although we will see a little bit later, it does hinder the articulation slightly. In terms of the body, there's nothing really new here. He does come with a tie, which is a separate piece, which is quite nice. The main central torso is the suit, but it's all one piece with that waistcoat there, so you can't really pull this apart. It does hinder the articulation ever so slightly, and it just looks a little bit phony to me. I'm not a huge fan of this. We've seen it on several other figures. We saw it on the Hellfire Club figures, for example, and it looks quite good to the eye when it's on display, but when it comes to practically using it, it feels a little bit rubbery, and it really impacts the articulation. The legs and shoes we've seen many times before on many suited characters, so there's no real surprises here, but it's a good mould, it looks pretty sharp, and it functions perfectly. So let's take a look at the articulation. He does have a ball joint in the head, so he can spin his head right the way around. It can look up and down, or it should do, but it is compromised when it comes to looking down because of that collar, as I mentioned before. Now, this is a rubber piece. You could take it off if you wanted, but obviously it looks better with it on. Now, he does have ball joints in the shoulders as well, so he can kick his arms up and out. There's an upper bicep swivel, and there is a double jointed elbow, which is great. There is finally a pin swivel at the wrist that allows the wrist to rotate 360 degrees, and of course, hinge forwards and backwards. He's got a swivel at the waist so he can turn from side to side, and I believe he will have ab articulation as well. However, because of this rubber piece, you can't really get any movements out of it, which is a real shame. Now, he does have ball joints in the hips, of course, so he can kick his legs out to the side, he can swivel his upper thigh, and he can also kick his legs forwards and backwards, and of course this is complemented by a double jointed knee, so he can really kick his lower leg all the way back there, which is fantastic. And then finally, there is an ankle pivot at the very bottom of the foot there, so he can pivot his foot from side to side, and of course hinge forwards and backwards as well. Now, I did mention that he comes fully loaded with a lot of accessories, which is perfect. He is a Punisher villain, so you want him to be fully armed for any encounter, and they have not let us down here. So he comes with a machete, a baseball bat, a pair of knives or daggers, a sawn-off shotgun, and blast and smoke effects for the shotgun. I really like all of these accessories. True, we've seen them all before, but I think they look really, really good. I think they work really well with this character, and it's nice that it has such a different array of accessories to create all sorts of different combinations and looks, and it's all entirely fitting and appropriate for the character, and it just makes him really, really fun, and it just adds a little bit more colour to this character that doesn't have a Build-A-Figure piece. So I think this is absolutely fantastic. I think they've done a really, really good job. For me, I have to say, this is a 4-star figure. I think everything about it works really well on a functional level. I think that head sculpt is fantastic. The accessories that we get are plentiful and really fun, and it really works. And I've long wanted this figure, and I think they've done a very nice job by Jigsaw fans. If I was going to criticise it though, I really am not a big fan of this waistcoat one piece that they have that hinders that articulation. Likewise, the hindrance of the articulation of the neck there because of that rubber piece is disappointing, but not insurmountable. But all in all, I think this is a really solid figure. It's not earth-shattering, but it is very welcome, and it's a very solid release. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe as there'll be plenty more videos soon.